this is Sean Law from Sydney Lorcana. I've got RDV here to talk about his 4-time set championship winning deck. You can see he's got 3 behind him because he's already sold one of his playmats. Yeah, let's take a look at the answer, or technically the answer 2.0, since it's changed from the last deck featured on the channel by a mighty 3 cards.
Just three whole cards is the minor change that we've had with this deck. It's made a huge difference though. The main change here, if you haven't seen the previous list, is that we've dropped from 4 Broom to 2, and we dropped Bell from 3 to 2, and when there's 3 extra spaces are those Elsa the 5th Spirits. Specifically was extremely useful in this deck, especially this set championship cycle round. It really answered a couple of major issues. One of them it only half answers, and that's with Maui Shark, just because you still need other cards to actually out it. Elsa exerting it is only half the battle. You still need to somehow get a crab to boost the Elsa so you can one-shot it. Otherwise, you're always trading 2 for 3 characters, and that's an issue for another day or another format. But the other thing here is that Elsa can exert all the Amber Steel cards as well, particularly things like Vinny, things like Peggy, things like Lady, just basic cards that can quest for 2 that are cheap and easy, just because that deck creeps up to 20 points really, really quickly. And I got a lot of success in tapping down things like the Maui Half Sharks, Rhino. Lady and Penny were always nice because they're 2 questers that can be one-shot by an Elsa. We always like ones that can be one-shot. Also, obviously, the Singers as well are good to hit.
Yeah, and do you want to talk about your 4 set talk about the different set champs that you managed to win? I have yet to see anybody actually win, like, well, I haven't seen anyone win more than 2, because I think Santi and I have done 2 and Connor's done 2, but I don't know anyone that's gone 4 to basically.
And John Patrick also has done 2, I believe, or maybe even 3.
Oh, actually, yeah, he did 2 last set as well with green purple, slightly different list. You can see it on the channel. But yeah, do you want to talk about the different store championships you went to, and how your overall experience with the deck? I mean, it's pretty crazy that it's almost identical to the ones that you brought in the last set, and you had great success in the last set champs as well.
Yeah, so in the last set champs, that was that previous list where we played the 4 Brooms, and we didn't play Elsa at all. Not playing Elsa was really good, that format. The difference here is at 3, you have to play wise with it. It's really hard to ink cards like Elsa and Belle, but we'll also go into those matchups. So I think, did we speak about it my first round at Town Hall? Because I think that might be on the channel in a previous video.
That's not currently on yet, but
okay. Okay, that's cool because I can start there. So that was a really, really, really difficult event. I remember that because the top 8 in specifics was I versed Franz in the top 8, and he was on Steel Song, and I just remember it was just one of those matchups where Ursula looks at the last card in hand, and it's a whole new world, and that's just the game there and then. It was a very, very difficult match. He's very, very skilled with that deck, and it really went down to the wire. We then had a match with Matt, and that one was a mirror. So the match itself went quite quickly, particularly in that format. It was quite a quick mirror, and I was lucky just to get there in the end. And then the final was against Jay, and I believe that footage is actually going to be coming up on this channel shortly, and that was actually a hell of a match. I actually went back and watched that myself, and I'm pretty sure that I don't want to spoil it for people to watch, but we got down to a situation where I had to just chuck down 2 characters because he'd have game the turn after next, and I was going to quest from 19 to 20, and I needed at least one of them to stick, and we just needed him to see an answer to get that to out me for that one, and we just got there in the end, so he didn't quite see it. Then we had the second one that I won. This was funny. So this was at Good Games Bondi, and for a 16-person event, I think slightly less showed up. We had 4 rounds, and then the top 4 and the top 2. And in those 6 rounds all up, 4 of my matches were mirror matches. So because everyone showed up with this deck to the second set champs, and that was very, very difficult. Except I will say I versed Chris in the semis, and he was playing the discard version, the green purple discard, and that version has a particularly difficult matchup with this deck, just because Diablo itself sees a lot of value in it being evasive, which a lot of decks can struggle to have a specific answer to. You have specific outs, but then the second one becomes an issue, and so on and so forth. Prince John existing. But then with this deck, you have cards like Pan that can one-shot a Diablo. But then on top of that, you can also do things like play a Go-Go and then on the same turn crash into a Diablo and suicide it, which is also pretty massive. Of course, that's pending having Pan out. And then the final was against JV, Jordan Verity. We had a very, very tight match once again, and that one just came down to the classic. I lost to him in round 1, so I had to get my comeuppance in the top cut. That just seems to be the law of how it works these days. Only person who's actually broken that cycle for me is Wes. So shout out to Wes, because he actually beat me in round 2 at Gamescube and in top 8. He absolutely crushed me that day. Then at the Alliance Games set champs, again, we were dealing with some of the newer cards as well. I remember in the top 4 matchup, I was versing Michael, and he was playing Steel Song. And I got one of the openings that you really, really prefer in the new Rhino Shift variant of Amber Steel. And that's where, in somewhere along the lines, and generally it's on the turn 2 play, you just drop 2 Chernobyls, because they can always out one of them on the next turn, but they can't out the second. And basically what that means is if you drop 2 Chernobyls, the turn 3 crab kills the Rhino in one shot. So that's a really, really important play to get, especially when you're going second against that deck. And I just got that off. And when that happens, that deck loses a lot of momentum, because that Rhino does act as a pseudo singer, because you do have a 4-cost card on board on turn 2 anyway, which is similar to what the rest of the deck does. And then the final was against Santi. Again, that was a mirror. I know that one's also coming up on this channel, and that was an incredibly interesting game, and that was a really, really fun and interactive one as well. This deck has a sensational mirror. You could go to an event and play mirrors with this deck over and over again, and you will not hate the event from doing so. It's very, very skillful. It's very, very, there's a lot of trading, a lot of resource tact that is required for that, and I actually quite enjoy it. Then in the last one at Mega Games, the top 8, this was interesting. So it was a seeded top 8. So seed mattered as to whether or not you went first or second. So in the top 8, I versed Alex, and he was on Ruby Am. And I was at the higher seed, so I did get to go first game 1, and I got the win there. And then in game 2, his hand was just very, very unfortunate. He had a couple of B preps. I ripped him with Ursula. I think at one point there was maybe a Pirate's Life. It was all just actions and song cards, but not really any characters. And he just struggled to get to match any early momentum, which was just a bit unfortunate with the hand. The top 4 matchup was against Connor. Again, he was first in seeding, so I had to go second in that match. Red-blue. I'd say it's a more favorable matchup for this kind of deck. The thing that's really, really important for the red-blue matchup with this deck is you need to win quickly, and you need cards like Merfolk. Like if you're drawing a Diablo and a Broom, and then maybe say like Ursula Pan, a Fox, a Crab, a Genie, that isn't good enough in that matchup because you're not going to mid-range tempo against those kinds of decks. You need to make them have to deal with you, and you have to do it quickly and from the start. So you want to be dropping your 2 to 3 merfolks, your Chernobyls where they quest and they don't have to trade. And you also want to be bouncing Tipo with Kit. I know that sounds funny, but that gets you 2 more points with the merfolk. That can actually win you the game. Then the final was against Sensei again, and that was another EA mirror. And then that one was just unfortunate in game 3. I think we just got there. It was a very, very close game, very, very close. And this just similar thing happened against Will, where you just kind of go in the middle of the game. It doesn't win you the game there and then, but it kind of does at the same time. Because if you're in a situation where, say, your opponent's on like 11 lore and you're on 8, and you're both kind of tying with the game state, if you then slap down a go-go for 4 on, say, an Iago, and then quest out, and all of a sudden I'm at like 15 and he's at 11, and he's going to actually have to play against my board instead of actually getting his points up, they're automatically on the back foot. And that's just what happens sometimes in those games where you just get that middle game go-go, and all of a sudden it can just swing momentum. It's very, very huge with these decks to figure out the points where you can swing the momentum, specifically when you're going second into a favorable situation.
Nice. And that was very. Thanks for the detailed report on the 4 set champs that you top aided, and I mean sorry that you won, and I mean you also top aided a bunch of other ones as well, right?
Yes, so I top eighted Central, and Daniel Lentini got me in the top 8 with his Ruby Ann, and that was a really good game. He absolutely slaughtered me. And then the other one was against Wes. He also absolutely destroyed me in the top 8 with Red Blue, which was he just played it really correctly, I found, against the strategy that I use. And if you can figure it out in that kind of matchup, it actually is quite difficult for this deck sometimes, because you need to play this one well for those matches where they can absolutely bring it back in late game. Things like Blurple and Red Blue can get a bit scary at that point.
Yeah, well, like the any deck with the Pirate's Life also sort of messes with your maths because usually you have just enough to get over the line, but then if when the first Pirate's Life comes in, you've now got to like backtrack, think, okay, I need to get that extra bit of lore to make up for it.
Oh, for sure, and that's exactly it. That's why I say you need to bounce a Tipo with a kit, because if that's a merfolk that's questing, that 2 lore could be what they were going to set you back with a Pirate's Life. So that could actually be the difference of whether or not you actually care about the Pirate's Life.
Yeah, having the shark and having the looping Pirate's Life is. I mean, I've done it against you when we played it with Ruby Am versus Emerald Am, and it can be very backbreaking, multiple Pirates' lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
And
sure.
do you want to talk also like when you with this deck, like what sort of matchups are your more favorite? What matchups do you sort of go in thinking like I've got a pretty good shot here, and what sort of ones do you sort of like when you're paired up against them, you go, well, I can win this, but it's going to be a bit more of a slugfest to get through them.
Well, I kind of need to start a metafy on this, because when everyone shows up with my brew of this deck, they all tell me that they struggle with Steel Song, and I'm like, how? That's the freest matchup for this deck. Like, it's actually so free. So that's definitely a favorable matchup. I don't care if I go first or second against Steel Song. If you play your cards right against those decks, basically they have a middle point in that turn 3 point where they need something to stick, and if you can kill it quickly, you just are completely rewarded. One of my funnest plays of the entire set tramp circuit is putting 1 damage with Bell on a beast. Because if they have Rapunzel, they're going to get the card anyway, right? They have no other draw power in their deck. And otherwise, like the beast is them drawing them 2 cards instead of 1 at the draw phase is actually what their draw power is. And it's either that or dock at that point. Especially if everything's evasive and they can't hit anything of yours.
And also using the bell to put the damage counter on the Rhino to pop its shield can also be pretty good as well.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Well, and Bell can even out a Rhino on its own because damage movement doesn't isn't equated in resistance. So if you have a 3 damage movement with Bell, you just kill a Rhino.
Oh yeah, you can, yeah, because it's only got technically
Like
3.
Calhoun. If you put 2 damage on a Calhoun with a Bell, it kills it.
Yeah.
So Steel Song is a pretty favorable matchup because even if you start like putting out Merfolks and they're like, well, I can't discard, so I'm surely going to storm the Merfolk, and then you're like, okay, turn 3 Pan smacks Indy. They lose their Singer 3 because they had to kill your Merfolk and they didn't want to discard a card. Now they're down a Singer, and you've just got more evasives on board, and if they can't deal with the Pan, then turn 4 is broken because you're singing Friends and playing Iago or Genie and it has Rush.
Yeah, well, I mean, I found against, because I mean, I took a similar list to Store Champ's last set, and I found when you play against Steel Song, it's more, if they open their more aggro end where they've got like multiple shift Robin Hoods and Lawrences and stuff, where they can sort of just, they're the ones putting the pressure on you.
Mm-hmm.
Then because Robin Hood is not very easy to get rid of, and even if you get rid of it, they're still drawing a card. So you've essentially, you usually have to 2-for-1 yourself to get rid of it, or you have to crab a fox, or crab a Iago or a goat. It's not, doesn't feel that great to trade into that. So because that was, yeah, that's what happened with me when I got knocked out by Steel Song, and it was just the, I beat it earlier, but then yeah, when they were just having so much, like the shift Robin Hood is just very difficult, I find, to answer effectively if you don't have the exact answer in hand.
No,
And
I get that.
yeah, but I know that, like, well, I mean, shift Robin Hood is not as common now, since a lot of people have gone in on Rhino, and trying to fit 2 shift packages in your deck can be pretty
Well,
pretty tight.
the issue there as well, though, and this is the other thing, is when you get to, when you like cut down the phases of what the game looks like, right? When you talk about that Steel Song matchup, there's always a point in that matchup where they stick out a big idiot that serves as the main booty on the field, whether it's Robin Hood, Namari, Aerial Sonic Warrior, and all these cards are just begging to be go-good. At that point, you're going anywhere between 25 to 33% of a game in one go-go. So that's just a game where you just hold go-go when you get it. Like that's the other thing, is like they put out the bodies that actually can challenge you, even the shift Tinkerbell sometimes. But at the end of the day, you just use them to win. Because the thing is like fundamentally the when it comes to the risk management of that specific situation, they have to start playing against you. You've got evasives. You don't care, right? So you just wait for them to play and then you kill them. Like that's just what I found with that matchup. I just don't struggle against Steel Song usually. I guess I've just played matches against it way too much, but I really do think that's the most favorable matchup for this deck objectively. You do have better matchups with decks that require a bit of time to build up. So, but if I were to say put Blurple, Red, Blue, and Ruby M against one another here. They all have their advantages against this deck, but they all have their big disadvantages. Immediately for Ruby M, Shark and Pan Shark is insane. That's really quite difficult sometimes, and sometimes, especially when I'm playing this deck, there's times where I just forget that the Shark has Rush all of a sudden, or I have to actually play around a Shark having Rush because all of a sudden the discard pile becomes a toolkit for you. But the downside is that it can't ramp. And that's pretty important for this deck to know, because it means it leaves it knowing how long of a timer it has before it really has to start sweating. Against red-blue, scary because it can ramp. Sisu and B-Prep can be pretty scary for this deck, particularly big Sisu. Touch wood, it stays on the rotated list and doesn't come back. So it's good to have big Sisu potentially out of the game. But they're the scary cards. So realistically, what you just want to stop the ramp, but at the same time, with that strategy they take, they do have to sometimes hardcast how far I'll go on turns 4, 5, 6, etc. Because they're just trying to ramp and ramp and ramp. And you need to just play into that and be greedy and commit to a board and just keep questing as fast as possible with that matchup. And the Blurple matchup is the same, although I actually think Blurple's probably the scarier of those three long range decks for this deck. And the reason why I say that is because Bell checks the board really, really well. And even though it takes an extra card, if on turn 2 they're singing Friends, then they've just basically got back all the resources they used to put a Bell on board. And it's also just another. It also know that they're playing things like Carpetbag to get the Popsicle back when they're playing Bell as well, and the Tamatoa can do that as well. Yeah, Blurple's pretty versatile, particularly because it has the cards that can combat the purple cards, because basically running the same ones. I don't think it plays Pan. I think it should in some decks, but I'm not a Blurple player to confirm that.
I
But
mean,
I do.
I've seen some that have like a couple of pan for the more for the later game because ideally, if you're playing Blurple correctly, Iago's like a turn 3 play,
Mhm.
and if you're not playing Steel, there's not really anything that can out it very effectively unless you're putting your tech action cards in.
Mm. Well, the other thing as well is I've asked a few purple decks that were playing hypnotic
Hypnotic
strength.
strength,
Hypnotic
yeah.
strength, that's what it's called, just to clear the Iago. So against those decks, I was just inking Iago. There was against Santi because he did hypnotic strength. One of my Iagos one game, he caught me off guard because I'd actually Ursuled and seen his hand prior in that game, and I didn't think he had it. So props to him to cost Bird Clearer. It's like the bird whistle at the cafe, when you drop
And it,
that.
it also draws you a card, which is pretty crazy as well.
That's pretty good. Kill the bird, draw a card. It's a good card. Yeah. So I would say yeah, Blurple's pretty scary. I they have their own issues with against this kind of deck, but we also have our own issues against it, and I think they can play a bit, lean a bit more into it when they do. Just the one thing for them as well, though, is every bigger card is just huge, and similar to Steel Song, it's like Hades, Go Go, Elsa, Go Go, Tamatoa, Go Go, like. And that was actually a point as well against Connor in the top 4. He actually quested with a Tamatoa when I had Goat on board, so I swung the Goat and Goat for 4, and that got me from 13 to 18 on that turn. And I'm pretty sure I had a rose up my sleeve as well. Not literally, just like I drew it for turn. But
Yeah,
I'm not Bandit Keith. My Yu-Gi-Oh days are over. But
yeah.
yeah, and I also just want to give a shout out to the White Rose because there's so many people who have built a green purple list that is very similar to this. I've noticed a lot of people have cut the White Rose, and I just think that's fundamentally incorrect. I think there's so many situations in this deck where just one card can just get you there, particularly just the one law, because if you just go on about your business and you don't care what your opponent does, if you've lost, you always almost get there, but the cards that just get you there, you absolutely should be playing 3 or 4 more copies of.
All right, and with the with the list, would you ever consider running the full 4 white roses, or do you think 3 is still the sweet spot?
I like 3, and it's because the only reason I'm not running the fourth is because at the moment I do really like the 3 drop package. It is one of the bigger. Let me count this right now. So yeah, there's 18 3 drops in the deck, 21 if we include Friends as a card on its own. And that's why in this deck, 6 ink can be a pretty important term because you can just about do everything you can in this deck at about 6 or 7 ink. 7 particularly because you can go and Fox, which is pretty sweet. But the rows you might see going up to 4 post rotation, because I'm going to be obviously assuming Goat gets rotated potentially. Dumbo is looking very, very playable in this deck as well. But the Rose will also still be there just to pick up points.
Nice. And do you think that there's going to be an answer version point 3 for this set, champs, or are you just going to stick with the list that's won you 4 set champs?
I just don't have any other cards. That's just what I keep telling people. I just don't own other cards. Like, here's my thing, right? So I dropped the cash to buy Blue Steel, and now the cards basically got nerfed. I sold them off. I know it's not about buying and selling in dollars or cents and whatnot, but like it's just kind of annoying when I got together this deck that I only played for like 1 to 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden I couldn't play it, and I just don't quite care enough to scramble for cards right now. Just when we're on the verge of a rotation, I'm happy to just show up playing the deck that I like. And it's not a matter of being like, oh, this deck's just gonna beat everyone. I'm literally just playing what I like. I do really enjoy playing this deck. I think it has a really, really enjoyable mirror. There's been some buddies that do play Steel Song, and they're like, even when I do well at an event and I'm playing it, I just don't really enjoy it as much as if I was just playing something else, because it can sometimes feel very, very linear. This deck's not linear. It's just basically got a bunch of toolkit cards that allow you to do a bunch of things in the game, and you just got to sequence them right, and you just got to play it well, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, you're the one that started the green purple. Uh, the a lot of people going on to green purple. You're probably one of the main contributors. Um, what do you think of a lot of people adopting aspects of your deck, or even just taking the same deck?
I mean, I enjoy it because, as I said, I enjoy the mirror. I like seeing what other people can do with it. The one thing that I find really enjoyable is just seeing where people's minds go as to what the specific play at the time is. Like something that's really, really cool about this deck. I'll give away some of the hidden tech here. Um, and I was showing Santi this in the final because something that's really cool if you play this mirror and you've like lost die roll. If you have Merfolks and you're going second and they drop a Merfolk, you drop the Chernobog first. So this is actually what happened with me and Santi's match. So I dropped the Chernobog first despite having 2 Merfolk in hand, and then he then quested with his and played Diablo and a Chernobog. And then what ended up happening was my Chernobog takes out his Merfolk. He's now got 2 characters on board. One has no strength, so it can't attack. And then I drop 2 Merfolks. All of a sudden, I have all the advantage, all of it, and I went second. And like things like that, like those kinds of interactions are massive. Same thing happened with Will. I went second, he went first. Turn 3, he pans. Turn 3, I kit. I bounce the pan. Ruins turn 4 in this matchup. If the pan's not on the field, it's the worst feeling for going into turn 4 without a pan, because Genie Pass is just all of a sudden just not that optimal in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, Genie having draw a card and rush definitely makes a huge difference. And the same with, I mean, with the pan, Iago is effectively like a flying Maui.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Exactly.
it goes in, takes out something, and then if they have the action, it dies. If they don't have an action, it probably cleans out 2 or 3 more characters. Sometimes even 4 if they're just 1 power creatures, which there are still a lot of 1 power creatures running about.
Well, you have this weird situation. So it's a really, really strange phenomenon. It's one of the most interesting plays, actually, I would say, that I've experienced in this game that happens in this mirror. So you end up trading genies a bunch. So even in game 3 with me and Santi played on last weekend on Saturday, we actually both had 3 genies in the bin by the end of the game. We actually just kept trading genies. But you end up in this situation, right, where you'll play a genie, they'll play an Iago. their Iago has Rush. It hits your Genie. Now it has 2 damage. But now I play an Iago. I hit that Iago. That Iago's gone. I now get 4 damage. They then play Iago, hit my Iago. It's got 4. And then you play an Iago and you just smack it. Or you have Pan out. You play Go-Go for 4. And then the Iago with 4 damage. You swing the Go-Go into it. And you've just gained 4 lore. Like, it's such a strange... It's like a duel almost in the Old West when that happens, because either you're gonna get go-go'd or you're just trading big guys for like the next 5 to 6 turns, and it's just really interesting.
Yeah, and are there any? I mean, you've already got confirmation that Curse Merfolk's been reprinted, Bell's being reprinted. Any other cards that you're hoping are going to get reprinted or in the next set?
Look, for me to make this work, I would like either Broom or Chernobog to get reprinted. It doesn't need to be both, just one of them. We might not get both. We might get more 1-drops. That's okay. We can play because what we're actually going to play if we only get one anyway is going to be the 1/1 Pegasus. Unconfirmed if I'm going to play the Shift, but the 1/1 Pegasus with Dumbo is potentially a strategy I want to tamper with. I really, really, really would like to see Ursula Deceiver, Peter Pan, Shadowfinder, and Crab get announced, or at least a Crab equivalent, because I think, and I believe Fox will get rotated, and I understand why the Fox will get rotated, and to be honest, fair enough. And I'm also okay with the idea of bringing Snake back into the deck in lieu of Fox. It doesn't have Rush. The Rush is a big component, but at the same time, with the Snake, at least you can get bodies back in hand and replay cards. It makes replaying a Go-Go a lot easier because you can do it for 6 instead of 7. You can also take damage off of a pan and replay it. It's just a lot cheaper, and then there's good positives there. So Ursula Deceiver, one of those 1-drops that hasn't been announced so far, would be great. Crab just deals with things. That's why I like Crab. Like, it just really helps a deck that doesn't really have a high end deal with stuff, and that's why I'd like to see it stay. I think that's fair, especially if the Fox isn't going to come on the field with Rush and just have 7 attack just because. I think Crab deserves it. What else is here?
I mean, they do have like it's not quite this. It's not +3, but there's the +2 one from I think this set or the set before the quest for 2.
But 3's so
But
good.
yeah, 3 makes a huge difference because Chernobog taking out a Rhino is it's pretty
And
good.
also, it's also Maui Shark is difficult for this deck to deal with, and it is nice that there's a card that can make Elsa a 1-hit or a Genie a 1-hit. If Iago gets it, it was gonna be a 1-hit regardless. But same as Pan as well. Anything that can just 1-hit a half shark, that can really swing the game back in your favor. Friends probably gets rotated. Goat probably gets rotated. Lever stuff could be interesting. If Friends gets announced, that would be great. But I mean, we don't know what's going on with the songs just yet. I do think this deck is extremely playable post-rotation, though. I'm quite excited for it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're excited to pick up some foil Curse Mofolks as it looks like it's the weekly promo.
Yeah. I think they did really good with those promos. Like, I think this is very much a step in the right direction, giving us promos that people want to use to play.
Yeah, well, I was amazed. Like the promos there are I think all 3 of them are pretty playable.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, yeah, it's definitely a huge step up from the previous sets. And well, there we go. Thanks for talking about the answer, uh, and yeah, giving some unique insight into your 4 set champ winning uh, deck. I don't think I've seen anyone, like I said, in the world that's won 4 set champs within the same season, let alone using the same deck. So yeah, congratulations, and thanks for coming on the channel to talk about it again. And if anyone wants to reach out to you to talk about Green Purple, do you have any social media plugs that they can reach out to you?
Yeah, reach out on Instagram, BoxCatBlazer. That's a good one. Otherwise, you can see my name in the chat. That's also my Facebook name. It's Robbie. You can also reach out on Facebook.
All right, then. Well, thank you for that, and hope to see you on the channel in the future to talk about future iterations of Green Purple.
My pleasure, Sean. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you.